everyone. Natural Sentient Podcast is here with Madd Wizzard, aka Raf, grid worker, light worker. We do some cleansing healing before we start. Right. So let's take the time.
Well, interestingly, we did the little ceremony before this. I'm just doing it naturally, like saying that Slavka wanted to do a session, so I just like doing the introduction to this. And so we spent about a whole hour because she said, "Oh, Avebury would be an interesting subject to talk about." So I started sending all these pictures to Slavka about Avebury, and there were different files, shall we say, of pictures that we could go in order in the conversation. The last one
we were doing some brainstorming. Yes.
The last one was about goblins, and she went, I really want to talk about goblins. So I go, okay. So we're going to forget about everything else and just do the goblins. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about Avebury as well, because we have to set that up, because it's about the goblins in Avebury.
Yeah, that's what I suggested, because I really normally don't hear about goblins often, and I'm excited to hear more about them, about who they are, what they are doing, what's like their mission, and stuff like that. So why not? But let's. Sure. I'd like I would like us to clear the space and ask for the permission to do that.
Right, and that's what I was saying just then, that I had done the little request, the verbal request, to do this, like in a ceremony, just asking the permission. Look, and stating our intention. We don't want to cause harm. We want this to be a sort of an awakening for humanity, of human beings, and build a bridge between human beings and goblins, and it be a peaceful and cooperative, and do good trades and shares, and it's something that's a benevolent connection, bridge between goblins and human beings.
Yes.
Despite all the Lord of the Rings sort of stuff. And so just stating the intention that we want to do this sort of respectfully and with permission. And I don't think we've got any major secrets to talk about as such to be revealed, but it's just talking about one's personal experiences really with goblins over the years, mostly at Avebury, or the surroundings of Avebury. And
so let's mention that you are from UK, so people know why Avebury, that you live there and you go to the places.
Well, I live in the UK, but I don't live in Avebury.
Yeah, not in Avebury. Yeah. But why Avebury? Because you've been there. I was there. So
many times. Yeah.
Yes, we've been there.
Yeah.
So that's why we have chosen Avebury specifically.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of knowledge about that place, and you did some energy work and some grid work. You had, and like you experience different types of entities there, and that's what we would like to hear from you, your experience, from your journeys, from your work, field work, grid work, and with focus on goblins, because I really don't hear that much about them. So I'm curious.
Fair enough. Well,
hi, Jason. So we have 3 people watching. Okay. So hi, everyone. Welcome to Natural Sentient Podcast. We are talking about Avebury area, and we will focus on goblins.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Avebury's a little bit like an onion, and every visit is like almost like taking one part of that layer of that onion. There are so many layers that make up what Avebury is. So what I'm going to say now for the next hour or so, take with a pinch of salt. It's just my personal experience. and it's not staying as fact. It's just my impressions, what I've seen, and as well connecting with other people, what they have seen, and how they are able to access the information in these places, in these stones, in this Avebury complex, which is Avebury Stone Circle. It's not just the henge, the trench, you know, the dike, the circular dike with the stones inside. You may have some pictures there, Slavka. It's
Yes.
there is two.
So this is the first one that is behind me. That as a
Yeah.
background, that's the recent aerial picture, right?
It's a good drone
Just
shot
like
of Avebury.
So as you can see, this is like
You've got a
Avebury.
little village built in there as well, and a pub and a cemetery, which is just on the outside. That's a nice picture of the Avebury complex, what we call the Avebury complex. So you've got in the middle there, you've got the circle of stones with the henge, the trench, and the two stone circles inside, one being the sun, allegedly the sun and the moon circles. Then if you look to the right, you've got an avenue of stones that is about, I think, about a mile and a half. I think is it a mile and a half, 2.5 miles of avenue of stones on the right, going all the way to that other circle at the edge of the picture there. That is called the sanctuary, and it's almost like a serpent, like the head of the serpent is where the sanctuary is on the right. You've got the avenue of stones leading to the main henge, which is like, it's almost like the serpent has swallowed the egg, or it's about to give birth to an egg, as it were. And so that's the stone circle. And then you've got the tail to the left of the main henge.
That looks like a tail, and this is like
tail.
Hat. Here is hat on the right.
And there is only 2 stones surviving from that tail. What is the tail on the left? There's only 2 stones, and they're right at the end of the tail. And one of the stones was part of the avenue that's remaining, and the bigger stone, the second one, is what was essentially a cove. So it would have been a group of stones in a circular position, and there's only one of those stones left. So you've got 1 stone remaining from the cove, which would have been the end of the tail, and 1 stone quite close to it, which would have been part of the avenue of that.
You
tail.
see, this is the recent picture, and this is from the past, before. Oops.
So now that's a very good.
Yeah.
It showed a picture there of the henge. I don't know if you can go back to that one again. That's the other one. That one.
This one.
If you can hold it there, you can see now the henge is not as big as that, but they dug down to see how big, because over several thousand years, because this stone circle is, I think, 2,000-3,000 BC. So this is almost a 4,000, 4,000 or so year old, 3,500-4,000 years
older.
Stone circle.
Older.
Well, that's what they've dated it to. So yeah, that's the alleged dating of the stone circle, but it could be older, as you say. But you could see how deep they have excavated what is the henge, the trench, the dike around the stone circle itself. And what you'll find in a lot of Neolithic, Neolithic is the sort of the Stone Age. I think it's between, I'll probably get this wrong. I think the Neolithic is about 2,500 years BC to maybe 4,500 or 5,000 years. That period.
Oh, that's really quite.
It's called the Neolithic.
Ancient. So you see,
it's the end of the Stone Age, really, the Neolithic, because then before that is the Mesolithic, which goes to 10,000 BC, I think, and then you've got you've got further beyond, sort of dinosaur era.
Yeah, so
stuff.
We go really back to the ancient BC time.
It's the end of the Stone Age, essentially. So that this is the caveman banging rocks together, allegedly, on the mainstream, and yet you had this highly advanced technological, what I would call a cyclotron, like what you've got in Switzerland with CERN.
Oh.
This is essentially a cyclotron. This is generating massive amounts of power, which is why you've got those trenches and the plasma.
Circle.
Yeah,
right.
where the trenches are, you've got massive amounts of plasma pouring into these trenches. This is a massive cyclotron.
Yes.
Right. And you've got the stones circles there in that picture. And that energy would have gone into the stones and you would have had two rotating energy fields.
Yeah, but if they rotate, it's like the infinity symbol, you know, the 8 number.
Like, yeah. So you would have had this whole, we call the word bank. It's an interesting word, a bank, the trench. So it's like where all that plasma is being poured in and then kind of being moved around. And then it gets poured into the center where the two inner stone circles are, the sun and the moon.
Yeah,
circles.
This was really a place where it really created massive amount of energy.
Then you've got that point of creation, as it were, literally inside that circle. So it's a fascinating, this is so-called Stone Age monument. It really isn't about a place of ceremony. This is like a little bit like the pyramids in Egypt. This is doing something. What that something is, you can go off topic and talk about, but we're not going to go there, are we? Today we're going to talk about goblins.
Yeah, but it's really good to mention that actually these structures, how they are created, that they are really it's intentional. And these advanced civilizations, they could really create this massive energy to open the portals, to actually direct the energy where they really want it. Okay, so it's really good that you talk about that. What are your takes from that, your observations?
Well, I got this just by connecting with the stones. There are a lot of the stones in Avebury and the avenue of stones. Most of them have been put recumbent or buried over. Many of them have been broken up, but there are still quite a few that are still in place. And some do give you lots of information and downloads. If you ask permission, I always do things with my higher self. And you get shown images and pictures or a story and energy.
If you come with respect.
Yeah.
If you do that with respect and like with open mind and heart, basically.
And the stones will talk to you.
They're living beings. It's a living consciousness. They have the memory.
Yeah.
So it's important now to mention that Avebury is on the St. Michael ley line. And right there is also St. Mary ley line, right? So if you can see, it's a very strategic position of these stones. So that's even like enhancing or strengthening that power, that energy that they were creating, that it was coming from there.
And that line happens at Beltane. So if you look at the Celtic wheel of the year, and the equinoxes and solstices, Beltane being one of the equinoxes. Is it equinoxes or solstice? I'm not sure. Beltane, which is around May the 1st. May the 1st.
Summer. I think it's summer in May. No. It's not is around, but it's finishing spring.
It's a spring. It's a spring equinox. It's a spring
equinox. Yes.
It's not. No, spring equinox is around the 20th of March.
So it's after.
Beltane is around May.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit after, but it is still considered part of the spring solstice, if you will. It's part of the spring event. It's still part of the spring season, Beltane.
Yeah.
So that's the alignment from Beltane, from the time of Beltane, that where the sun rises and it hits that whole alignment across the southern Britain. And what you'll look if when you look at these places, a lot of these places are really essentially Neolithic. The masculine, the male line or the St Michael line, most of those
Yeah.
are like high
But
mounds, very masculine places, like high areas like Glastonbury, Boroughbridge Mount, which is another mound, but it's like a mound, not a like a burial mound, a mound of stone. Almost, it's not as big as Glastonbury, but it's just like very similar to Glastonbury. So you have two entwining serpents, if you will, or dragons, and where they meet. So one is female, one is male. Where the female goes, it normally goes through places like wells and springs, very watery kind of places. A lot of the feminine, the St Mary line, whereas the St Michael line goes through lots of high places, very masculine energy places associated with them. And when you go to these places, you feel them.
so,
But it's interesting where the lines converge.
hmm
Where the snakes converge at those points. Those points are where these very old places still exist. They're all very old. Some of them may appear to be not so old, but the fact that they do meet up at these places suggests that this is going into the Neolithic, the Stone Age. This happened. This is a Stone Age alignment. This is all
hmm
part of the Avebury complex is a Neolithic Stone Age monument, or call it a monument, created in the Stone Age, in the Neolithic age. Then all of this and everything along that line is part of the Neolithic alignment. So some of these places may be dated to a much later, closer to our period. So say the Iron Age, around sort of the AD 20 AD to sort of 900 AD or 700
hmm
AD, around that period after Christ. So a more recent period. A lot of these areas they said, well, this is made then, but the fact that this is most of this stuff, or the stuff that's here, is Neolithic, or was at the time a Neolithic, like
yeah.
actually,
So,
like certain wells and springs. This stuff has been there a very long time. So for
yeah.
me, this is a Neolithic alignment. All
So
of it.
what when we talk about the energies, feminine and masculine, as the Saint it's Michael's energy is this masculine current, and
Yeah,
Saint Mary is like feminine current. So
very.
do you feel like that this masculine is like dominant? You feel maybe that that feminine was suppressed. What is your
I
take on
don't.
this?
I haven't looked at it solely as a masculine and feminine, more as what parts of that line are blocked or what has been suppressed there. And I have throughout the years been given instructions: go here, grid there, and I have done that along this line. So because there are so much suppression and so much blockages along those ley lines, for whatever reason, just doing the simple grid working, turning up at a place and gridding it helps to unblock that and put it back on to proper alignment. A lot of people do this. Well, I say a lot. I think quite a few people get to do this, but I have over the years been given, assignments to go to certain remote places along this line. Not even where those points, yeah, some of those points, but not necessarily where the points are along those lines, to grid them and to help with that alignment. So we're talking about goblins, really. But
so let's finish this. Like, yes, we are in Avebury area, so
right, back
we
to
started
Avebury.
with that. Yeah. For me, it was just interesting, just to go through more into these ley lines. Okay, just what energy you felt there, because you somehow said that, yeah, the Glastonbury and the other places you feel more masculine energy, right? So that was just like my curiosity, right?
Mhm.
So, but now I would like to go and talk about the like entities that you experienced there in this era, like through the stones, or in different beings, elementals that showed up to you. And yeah, then we will like talk about these goblins, but in general, which kind of beings you actually um, talk with, like in general.
Well, we're going to specifically talk about goblins. My first encounter with goblins was at the, if you can go back to that picture again, of the Avebury complex, with the showing the whole complex. That's it. Right at the left, on the left there at the end, you've got 2 stones remaining. Of that whole tail end, there's only 2 stones remaining, and they're called the Adam and Eve stones. So remember what I said, one was a cove stone and one was a part of the avenue. So the cove stone was like the end of the tail. You would have had a circle of stones. So there's one remaining of that and one left of the avenue. And I did the old preamble, asking permission, doing this with alignment with my higher self. I went to it, I touched it, I visualized myself, as it were, standing in front of the stone, visualizing the stone, and then just holding the image in my mind's eye. And then if you then let that image go, then you'll get to see something come through. And what came through was I was seeing windows, one after the other, one after the other. And it was like, like when you're scrolling from above down, I was pushing up, as it were. So I was pushing up, it's almost like I'm scrolling, and it was just like a whole line of windows, one window on top of another, on top of another. And I was just scrolling it like this, scrolling, and each window was empty. And I just kept scrolling, and I just kept scrolling. And I was going like, what's going on here? Like, am I actually seeing this? And I'm like getting, yes, keep going. And I just kept scrolling like that. Windows, just passing up windows, scrolling. And I was just kept on scrolling like this. Like I'm talking to you now. I'm just kept on scrolling. And
yeah,
the windows
I'm also scrolling.
are flying up. Loads of them just flying up until I get to one window where I see the outline of a being, like the silhouette of a being. And I'm like, right. So I said, I'm doing this all through my higher self. I'm not rushing ahead with this. I'm doing this carefully, talking to my higher self, what's going on here. The being comes through. I can feel the being come through. I said, higher self, can you help us with this connection? So I can hear what's being said. I ask the being, is there a name that you like to be associated by? So I'm not asking what his name is, just a name that perhaps is just he's comfortable using. I do that all the time whenever I connect with the being that I don't know, and I say that, so at least there's a name that we can, you can converse with. And normally they give me their well, not their real name. They give me the name that might be part of a mythology. But this guy said, I'm the goblin mage. That's what he said. Well, that's what I heard. And and there was something that he wanted, and so as per usual, I speak to somebody like Sean, excuse me, and he unpacks the whole download. I can do it a bit better now. I can download. I can open up those downloads a bit more. But Sean, Sean from Cyanic League always does. He's able to. It's almost like I have made this agreement with Sean before I came into this life that I would go through this and I would do it with Sean, and Sean would help me to unpack this, and I get to do the assignments from that. And so there was a whole assignment that came with this goblin, from this goblin mage, and what it was that there was about 7 different species of goblins, some quite peaceful, some more less so, and some very violent.
Yes.
And there was a conflict between these different species of goblins. And as Sean says, you've got to be very, very careful with goblins, because goblins will fuck your life up. His words, quotations. They will fuck your life up. And some of them are very, as I say, very violent, and they can affect you. They may be in spirit, some of them. They're in the inner earth realms. Most of them reside in the inner earth realms. But they can still affect us here on the surface. You have to be very careful with goblins. And a lot of them are, you do get some of the Harry Potter type, very sort of small, how should we say, not, they might be sort of very smart and cunning and all that, but they're not physically imposing. They're very small and almost like dwarf type size goblins.
Yeah, but what I can sense, it's like their power is much bigger than their appearance. Then you might think that they are small, but they are very powerful.
They would be very intelligent, but they might have accumulated a lot more because of that. Because they have associated with other groups. Generally goblins are very kind of close-knit societies. They're not sort of high-dimensional beings. They've got much more, of a denser nature, and and maybe their reputation has somewhat, true.
Are they elementals? Can they be called elementals, or?
I think you could call them part of the elemental world, but even then I would still classify them away from the elemental world. I don't see them as part of the elemental world, me personally. They seem to be, but then I've had elementals come at me, talk to me, converse with me, connect with me, and they seem quite physical. It would seem very physical, very, all the detail, all the, it's just another realm. But they're dressed, they got clothes, they're, if you were to step into that realm, they would be just as physical, almost you could touch them. They're wearing clothing, they talk, they have an accent, it's a difficult way. I find that, me personally, I find it difficult to quantify it. You say, oh, well, this is a physical realm, and this might be more dense and less permeable. Things, can't come through you, and we're more contained by the time and space in 3D, and they perhaps are not so much part of that. So there might be some differences, but there's a lot of similarities between the realms.
How would you describe them in more details, like about their energetic signature, about what they do?
I think they're quite an acquisitive bunch of beings. They like objects. They like shiny things. I don't know if I'd call them technological necessarily. I don't think they've got that kind of advanced mind. Other species of goblins, for instance, the ones in Japan, I was mentioning it to you briefly.
Yes.
You've got a different species of goblins in Japan. You've got the long nose, very phallic nose, which seems to be very much connected to the Jewish diaspora that left. It could be one of the 12 tribes that left and ended up in Japan. There's a whole story there. So you do have some of the goblins with the phylactery, that little black cube that they wear on their forehead, which is a very Jewish thing. You do see a lot of dengu, or Japanese long-nosed goblins, with the phylactery on their forehead. A phylactery is what a fascinating thing a phylactery is. That's another little rabbit hole to go down.
Yes, please.
Phylactery. Well, I mean, what is a phylactery? It's very similar to sometimes you see certain goddesses holding a torch. Yeah, like a torch.
Yes, literally, it's torch.
So, yeah. So, but essentially, it's almost like, which is quite dark, really, if you think about it. It's like you have captured a consciousness, and that capture that it's like you grab that part of that soul or that spirit, and now you put it into a phylactery, and now you have it in your hand, and you could put thousands, millions of different captured souls or spirits into that phylactery. It's like a prison almost. And now you control that being in your realm. And sometimes you see certain witches holding the torch, a phylactery, essentially. You know, they think of it, oh, it's something to light the way because it's so dark. Fuck that. It's a fucking phylactery, right? It's something that has everything in that realm is you hold in your hand.
Yes.
Right? So
like
it's
literally,
a much more,
you create a prison.
Essentially, it's a kind of a prison, a phylactery. I'm sure it's a lot more than that, but it's kind of like a prison.
Yeah, can you explain why you talk about Japanese, why you mentioned Japanese ones, your connection with Japan?
Yeah, because I've got a big connection with Japan. I'm part of a Japanese Shinto group. Have been for 25 years or so, something like that. I've been with them for a long time, so I know a little bit about the Japanese side of things. But they also have their own goblins, you know, and some of those goblins have become quite high level. You know, they've become kami, they become divinities. So I've actually visited a Shinto shrine in Japan that had its kami was a goblin, and that goblin. So that's another time I got visited by a goblin. Was then, because that night after visiting that shrine, that goblin came to me and actually said to me, "If you don't learn Japanese now, you never will." Right? Because I was studying. No, not a threat. I was studying Japanese, but I was studying Japanese at the time, and I was struggling, and I was just about to change jobs as well. And when I changed the circumstances of my job, I couldn't do the studies like I did before. Another job, I had more time to do it, and so I could concentrate more on learning it. But since I changed my job was literally after that trip, I changed my job, and then I couldn't study. I didn't really have the energy all the time to study Japanese. So it was like it's almost like a premonition of, you know, forewarning of that if you don't do it now, you never will. And I haven't. You know, I'm now 20 odd years now since that happened, and it's gone. I've lost so much of the Japanese that I'd studied anyway. So that was one of my first encounters with a goblin.
When it was? Which year, if you remember?
Oh, fucking 2006 or 5 or something like that, perhaps. So maybe not, about 20 years. That happened.
So, and from that time, after your first experience, did it repeat? Did you like?
I've not dealt with goblins properly until that time at Avebury. not had to
Yeah,
deal
but
with them.
yeah, but you had that experience once.
Yeah, yeah, I had the experience. And it's interesting on the Shinto side, they talk about what those types of goblins, those Japanese long-nosed goblins are, you know, the ones with the phallic noses. There's a
Like
little bit of,
Pinocchio, sort of, people can imagine, right?
well, less pointed, more
Mm-hmm.
bulbous at the end, like a phallus, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like a phallus at the end. It's almost like a phallus. It's like they've got a nose. It's like they say, like dickhead, oi dickhead, right? Because it's almost like you've got a phallus on your head, right? But it's through your nose. So it's an oddity when you look at some of the pictures.
Okay,
So
so
that's
we can show some pictures of
yeah,
goblins. What do you
the
think? So audience
that
can see.
mhm.
So yeah, this also looks like a goblin. These are the two stones are Adam and Eve stones, right?
Yes,
Can you please say the location? Is it Avebury?
yeah, it's part of the Avebury complex. It's the last two remaining stones of the tail end of the Avebury complex. So there would have been a whole avenue of stones, sort of like what's the word? Not curling, but it's like a snake. It's kind of bending, and it's actually funny when you look at the other side of the avenue. You know, it does snake. The
Mm-hmm.
avenue snakes, and it doesn't just snake like a straight line. It kind of bends and twists over, and it's a little bit like that. So it's a very where the way the stones are, and the stones are they're sort of either end of each other. You know, they're aligned with each other. They're not staggered. They are the two. There's always the two stones next to each other, and then the next two stones, and the next two stones, and the next two stones. So it's like a DNA. It's kind of like a DNA spiral, as it were. Um, the way the stones are. That's
Mm-hmm.
another interesting little observation. When you walk down the avenue of Avebury, you start to feel that you're in a DNA sort of bridge or pathway, and each
Mm-hmm.
stone is linked to
Yeah.
something unique and different. Each stone.
Yes, exactly. When we walked, we were there together with the group after the basis conference
Mhm.
in June this year, and I mean that was really very nice. Just go there as a group and just to be there and like just with all respect, everyone went to different stones, different places, and I felt like every stone different energy,
Mm.
and different sensation,
Yeah,
different emotion, you
yeah,
know so this is fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like an onion. There are just the more times you turn up to Avebury, the more layers you sort of unravel, unpack it
absolutely,
down.
I agree with you because I was there with you only once, and
Mhm.
even after that I was rushing.
Yeah,
I
it's a
was
short
leaving.
period.
I had a
Yeah,
flight.
same.
So I
Yeah,
believe that is really each time you go there, something new shows up for you,
yeah,
different
exactly.
energy.
That's it.
So yeah, I'd love to go back to it, by the way, yes, because that's really interesting. That there was like the gateway, these two stones, not these ones, but the
Not
other
these ones,
ones.
the other two. Yeah, the other ones that you
It's
saw.
literally gateway, the right and left, and
Yeah,
you're just passing. There, it's a sort of portal, and
yeah.
there on the one side of the right stone or whatever, on one of the stones there was like this seat like a chair, you know
Oh yeah, yeah.
and that was like this chair where was done these ceremonies. I remember Heather what she was saying to me. Yeah, and like these places of like ceremonies, some initiations, not always with a positive. What's your experience, because you were actually there as well, but on the other
Oh,
side.
some say that that chair where you sit, you can actually see it's got an alignment to a rising sun at a certain time of the year. I can't remember which alignment it is, but apparently it's got, if you sit on that seat when the sun rises, I think it's one of the solstices. I'm not sure which one it is. I don't think it's the winter solstice. It might be the summer solstice. I'm not sure, but it has an alignment if you sit on that chair. I don't know if that's true, and I don't know if it was made to be that way. So, but everyone has their own research. That's somebody else's research. That's not mine. So I can't really give you.
No issue. So we can move forward to another picture of where the goblins are, or where you sensed that they are in one of those mounds. So
this is Windmill Hill, which is right next to Avebury. It's kind of like a high hill above Avebury. This is called a causewayed enclosure. It's got a couple of burial mounds there, but that you've got maybe 2 layers of trenches going around that, and you can see it's quite.
yes, they're round-shaped mounds, and there's like a part of the trench visible. Yes,
it kind of goes round. Obviously, a lot of these trenches have been filled in because of farming. The West Kennet Long Barrow, which is on the other side of that, which is still part of the Avebury complex, I would consider. West Kennet, it's a long barrow. That had a trench, a dike, or the map term, when you look at a map, it's called a cursus, which is from the Romans. They thought it was to do with the Romans. That's why they called it a cursus, like a circus.
yes.
But really, it's just like a henge going round. So even the long barrow had a henge around it. And you sometimes see mounds with a henge around it. Now, for me, it's funny because when I was shown that these are like plasma channels, these banks are storing, or the flow of the plasma is flowing around the banks. When you start seeing that on burial mounds, so-called burial mounds, or long barrows, so-called burial long barrows, which they're not, that happened with later inhabitants. Once the original people that made these had departed and decommissioned these monuments all across the British Isles and Europe as well, a lot of these Neolithic standing stones or complexes, long barrows, all decommissioned. I think the Black is one of them. Things get buried over. They get what's the word? Deactivated, turned off, buried over, because I think they knew that this invasion was going to happen. You're going to have different invasions, not just human, spiritual invasions. The humans would have been part of that invasion, and they knew this was coming, and they decommissioned much of these complexes, these Neolithic Stone Age complexes, so they couldn't be used and activated and abused. So this is part of the history, I think, of why so much has been dismantled, because, or buried, is because of these invasions that they knew were coming. So this causewayed enclosure is older. They said they've had inhabitants up there for 5,000 BC. So this is really old. This is like in that whole area, what's called Avebury, this would have been the first place where you would have had the people living there or going there before Avebury was even made. So this is a very old area, and you've got some burial mounds there. And when Sean was looking at the map, when I first started working with Sean, he went, "Do not go here," right? He says, "There is a nasty goblin here. You do not want to go here, right? You don't even think about that. You would need," and he said this back then, you would need a lot of goblin, what's the word? You need a lot of convergence of different goblin people a unity of goblins before you could even go there.
Well, so their approval, basically their group approval.
No, you would need group support
Or
group
support.
unity. It's like this was the apex predator of goblins there, living there. Like an apex predator of goblins living there. And you don't want to go anywhere near there unless you've got a backup of goblins with you. Right? And I think about maybe year and a half after Sean said that, I got the assignment to go there and grid it.
To this particular place.
Yes. And that was part of the meeting the goblin mage as well. That came with that assignment, came with going there. That's one of the things I had to do. That wasn't the only thing I did. I did another thing. And it's interesting that I got a lot of certain divinities, shall we say, very protective divinities, came to me and they said, you know, when I had this assignment, given this assignment to, with these different, to do, going back to the Adam and Eve stones, what came and meeting the goblin mage, part of that was trying to bring peace between these different species of goblins. Some were more violent and aggressive, so we had to have a sort of a mediation between the different species and create a kind of like you know, something more harmonious between them, like a cooperative that they can work with each other and not the weaker ones get abused by the stronger ones or the more
so they were like with different sizes, right? That's what you refer to, or you refer to their like power, what they can do.
What they can do, what they can offer, what they can get.
They can offer or get.
It's a whole part of a trade agreement, you know, being set up, and it has to be policed as well. So it has to be policed. And so I met a few divinities that said, we will help you with this because goblins will fuck you up. If you don't have the right backup, right, they will take advantage of you and they will make your life a living hell. You know, they can be very nasty and very aggressive. So they need to be, some of them, not all of them, some of them.
So and do they have any king or someone who is like leading them?
Yeah, you would have like the most powerful goblin in charge of, you know, all the other goblins. I think that's part of the way their system works. It's going to be the one that's got the most power, the most strength, and that normally is a kind of like what's that? You know, not zero-sum game. It's like, you know, the one that's got the most, you know, strength, abuse, violence in them. For some of the groups, for other groups, it might be more other species. It might be more, you know, ones that can be more clever, able to hide, able to, you know, the smaller goblins, able to hide, able to, you know, hoard things away. So you might need a bit of technology. You need a bit of cunning. You know, for the smaller, more, you know, less violent ones, you need more cunning and skill and luck as well, perhaps, to stay safe and keep your people safe, keep your tribe safe, keep your species safe. So you're going to have leaders in there, maybe not one leader. You're going to have like more of a cooperative there system rather than just one leader. With the more peaceful ones. But with the violent ones, you're going to definitely have the stronger one in charge, the more powerful, the more violent one in charge doing this.
So I'm just starting to show some pictures, you know, to show how they look, at least some of them.
I have done assignments to do with goblins, and one of the assignments was to do Silbury Hill. You know, Silbury Hill is part of the Avebury complex. It's a big mound. I didn't send you a picture of that. It's a big mound. It's a man-made mound, big though, huge, flat top. And I was asked to grid that. And when I spoke to Sean, because the goblin actually came to me. I was actually lying in bed, and back then I was sleeping on the floor. And so, you know, when the goblin came and I met the goblin mage, I could see how tall he was. He wasn't very tall. He was only what, you know, maybe like that height. That's how he looked. Now that's a doll. There's another picture of him close up. That's a picture. That's a doll of. Do you remember seeing the film with Tom Cruise called Legend? Have you seen that film?
I don't recall it right now, but
it's on YouTube, right? It's called Legend, right? It's Tom Cruise is very young in this film, and it's like a fantasy, fantasy fairy kind of film. Quite beautifully filmed, really beautifully filmed. And this goblin here is in the film. He's actually this image of, I think it's called Blix, and he's one of the characters in the film. So this doll is copied from that character in the film. The film called Legend.
So I'll switch it.
And he looks exactly like that. The goblin mage looks exactly like that, with that type of nose, exactly the same, and not more than 2 feet, 3 feet tall. Really quite small and thin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, for some reason when I open it, it gives me a little bit, this kind of heavy energy, a bit of anxiety, and a bit, the respect and suspicious. So I just respect that. Okay.
You got to be careful.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Don't be too frightened. Don't be too frightened, because if you're fearful, that's like fuel for them to grab on more.
No, I'm just sensitive.
Sometimes you've got to show a bit of power and force. If you've got people behind you that will back you, and so like anything, like if a being is aggressive and you've got more power and aggression behind you, that being ain't going to fuck with you, right? If there's a threat there, they can't do anything to you. That's one way of doing it. But they're self-aware, they're conscious, they'll talk. They're clever, they're cunning. You can talk to them. We just got to be fucking careful. That's all, and you've got to do it.
That's what I see. Yeah, I feel like really approach and be careful if you want to approach, and really very careful. That's what is it. They're what it transmits to me. So that's why it's what was very brief. That I went through the pictures faster. So
this is why you do everything with your high. You do everything with your higher self. You run everything through your higher self, because your higher self, right, is, I won't say it's the centerpiece, but it is the trunk, the main trunk of the tree that helps you align with all the branches of who you are, all the armies of who you are, all the many versions of you. Your higher self can bring that all together and work with you. If you work with the higher self, if you can develop a strong alignment with your higher self and connection and conversation with your higher self, right, the more stronger you can have that channel that's coming from above your head down into your heart, the stronger you can do that and work with your higher self. Everything that you do, you can now step forward now with confidence, because you know that you've got permission to do something or you don't. Should you go this way? Should you not? You run everything through your higher self, through that alignment. And so when you encounter beings like this, or even worse, 1,000 times worse than this, you are doing it with the consent and the alignment of your higher self. And that means if that's happening, you can meet some really nasty pieces of fucking monster shit or demon shit. But you know that you're doing this as an assignment. So you have no fear. There's no fear that if you get attacked, you know, there's a way to deal with that. That's something else. But generally, if you're doing this with your higher self, it is like your divine path to how you proceed. You are now in alignment with everything that who you are, who will work with you. Armies, different types of beings, some very negative, who appear quite negative, appear quite dark, but they are in alignment with you and with your mission and with what you're doing. They are not working against you, they're working with you. And they can be very dark beings, shadow beings, or not shadow beings, that's something else, but beings that may have, like vampires even, can be in a divine alignment. Certain vampires, not everyone, but certain vampires can be in that divine alignment, can be working with you. I've met Count Dracula. I have met Count Dracula several times. He's even got an assignment for me. He's asked me to do something for him. When I first met him, I said, like, when I first, because I heard it, and I was like, he told me who he was, and I went, fuck off. I was like, you know, somebody's playing with me, fuck off. Like, really rude. I was like, fucking fuck off. And then he very calmly, and he is an aristocrat, said, I am the Count Vladimir of Dracula. I am Dracula. And then I went, and this is, I'm going for a walk at night, and I went, oh, sorry, excuse me. And so I started talking to him. I said, like, you know, what, you know, how can I help you? And he said, I and my armies are at your service. He said that to me, and I was like, oh, thank you, because at the time I was accumulating lots of different groups and abilities and armies or whatever. Still am in a way, but that was mostly what I was doing a few years back. Anyway, and then I asked him, I said, so who do you serve? And he says, I serve, this is what he said, I serve the Lord God Almighty. And I went, I thought, that's good to hear. And the other question I asked was, in the, what was it? How did I say it? In the vampire world, what level are you? Who are you in the vampire world?
Oh, yeah, what's your rank?
The hierarchy, yeah. And he said, I am the vampire of vampires, was what he said to me. And I went, fair enough. And now I've met him as a silhouette. And very recently, I saw him face to face, right? Very recently, recently, about a few months ago. That was the first time I saw him, because normally he's only showed me like his silhouette, like the long cape with the high hood, the high sort of hood. So he's only let me see him as a silhouette. But a while ago, I saw him face to face, and he was surprised that for some reason I had that ability to surprise certain beings that come to visit, because they don't expect you to see them. And I saw him, and he is a frightening dude. He is a frightening dude. He's a vampire, and you know those are another batch. And I've met different types of vampires as well, and they are quite frightening. And I think the first time I met one before him, I was like, I would go, because I like going for walks at night. I felt vulnerable. That was one of the first times, or the only times I've ever felt like vulnerable. Like I'm at night and I can feel in my skin, I can feel them watching me. Like they know that I'm aware of them now. And it's like, there is nothing between them and me. I felt very fucking vulnerable. I still walk now. Like now I've got different types of, I'm coughing now because I perhaps should be talking about this stuff. Now I've got a support structure of many dark beings that I have versions of myself there that are like family to me. So when I go out at night, go out for a walk at night, I am connecting with family now, because I've met so much family in the underworld, different types of beings, some of them quite frightening. But the feeling in my heart was like they're family. I am their family. And that is when you have that in your heart to certain beings, it can be quite frightening and quite destructive. It changes. It totally changes your perspective on everything, on on how you approach and talk to people. It's a complete 180 of perspective of, like, for instance, I think it was a Beltane. I went up at Silbury Hill for Beltane at night, and I had a massive, like, awakening, like, type experience. And then as I was leaving the hill, climbing down to get off the hill, I was seeing these massive giant spiders. They were fucking enormous, like galaxy-sized spiders. They were huge, and they were all female, and they were my sisters. So I had a version of me that was one of their sisters. Like, they were like loads of them, you know, like a whole, well, not hive, but I don't know what you call spiders, but big family of spiders out there, and they were huge. And I was their family. I was their sister. They were all sisters, and I was like, my spider sisters. And since then, every sus spider now that I meet, and I've met a few that are fucking scary, they are my family. I have a spider family. You know, they're my family. As well as hellhounds. I've got fucking hellhounds that are family. Not vampires, werewolves. I've met so many werewolves as well that are like, not family, I won't call them family, but they've talked to me. You know, they've talked to me, and they come. Some of them have come with the Fae. Some of the werewolves have come with the Fae, so they're kind of like part of the Fae sort of grouping. You know, they're kind of under the umbrella, under the wing, as it were, of the Fae. Certain vampires, werewolves. Yeah. So you go down this, once you start, that door opens up to, you know, who you are in the underworld. It opens up for everyone, and just everyone has got this for the most part. Everyone has got this. It's just like when you know, and demons, you've got versions of you that are demons as well. You know, it's all there. You are all there.
Yes.
You are all there. Anyway, we're getting off subject here, aren't we? We're talking about goblins. No,
but it's good because we want to raise awareness about these beings, you know, about goblins, whatever, you know. But what I feel, you know, that they ask, you know, like, yeah, be careful, approach, be careful, because don't try to fuck with us. That's what I feel, you know, and we just do this really for the highest good, from the you know, highest intentions, to inform people, to give them knowledge, you know. That's it. Nothing to harm. Yeah, for the most part, it's people all for the raising the awareness, and to know that they are here, you know, that they exist. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we can go back to goblins. Well, I can put that picture with crop circles as well, but you can talk. Put that one on. It's interesting that there are historical accounts of human beings being, I don't know, we're going to use the word possessed. You can use the word possessed by goblins. Possessed might not be the right word, but possessed is quite close to what certain human beings have had relationships with goblins. And more is it of possession, or is it like a different form of how they came to? Well, as I say, you've got different types of different species of goblins. But the way it was a possession, it was channeling, or which way? Oh, well, specifically the ones that fly. Mm-hmm. So they can fly as well. Certain species of goblins can fly, yeah. They fly. And actually, when you look at certain Chinese and Japanese mountain wizard groups, like there's one particular ascetic group in Japan called Shugendo, and they are like a ascetic, very strict, very you know, lots of fasting, they actually walk around a mountain doing prayers. But their founder got to such a spiritual level, that he would fly on a cloud. He had his own cloud, like, do you remember that old Monkey, the Japanese television series? And he'd call a cloud
and like a cloud would come and he'd just jump onto the cloud and he would just fly off with the cloud. That founder of that Japanese ascetic group, Shugendo, had his own flying cloud, right? Anyway, and he was a human being. He's historically, you know, he was a person. But there are accounts of certain human beings possessed. I'm going to use the word possessed because that's the closest word you know, you can use, by certain species of goblins that can fly. And I think one of them is in the Bible to do with Simon Magus. This is my opinion. I'm not saying this is as a fact, but in the Bible, yeah, Simon Magus, some of the disciples of Jesus meet him. And actually, some say that some of the story of Simon Magus was transposed over, was that the right word, to be included in certain magical things that Jesus did. I don't believe that, but he did have a following, Simon Magus. And he was in the story, I can't remember the reasons why, he flew up into the air and everyone saw this. And I'm not sure which disciple it was. I'm not sure if it was Paul. He started to do a prayer and he saw he said it as demons. He saw the demons' faces holding up this Simon Magus. And when he did the prayer, they disappeared and he just fell down. I don't know if he broke a leg or something, but he got hurt anyway. I'm not sure he was killed by it, but he got hurt by it. I don't know the full story, but that was one account of a human being being used or being possessed by the goblin. There's another account, and I'm sorry because this is last minute. I would have to research.
No, that's okay. That they are able to take over your human vessel. That's it. That's what we are talking about.
Yeah, there is an account in Japan where one of a brother of a general, they were at war at the time, and this brother was like a captain in his brother's army, and he flew between ships. So that was an account that was seen, that he flew between ships, and he was also possessed by certain goblins. And because part of this, the characteristic of these particular species of goblins are very arrogant, they're very drunk, they're very powerful, and they're very arrogant with it and very aggressive with it. And when you get possessed by these types of goblins, you take on those characteristics. So he did certain things that really pissed off his brother, and in the end he got killed. He was killed off. But there is an account, there is an actual account, historical account of this guy flying between his armada of ships as he was flying between each one.
Okay, so where they live, these goblins? I mean, if they fly, you know, are those just like Earthlings on Earth, or they can like sort of live in like more extreme conditions?
Mountains, those types of goblins live in mountains. That's why a lot of the ascetic types of monks, not monks, you know, wizards or something, that live in the mountains, are there because of them, because they reside in certain mountains. Most of the goblins that I've become aware of are more living in the earth, inner earth type beings with different densities, you know. And as I said, that one of the assignments I got to do from that goblin, more friendlier goblin, shall we say, who looked like Blix from the film Legend. He asked me if I could grid Silbury Hill. And so I went and gridded it, and I was sick for 4 days. I was literally at death's door. It was a quick death's door. I was so fucking ill, and I thought I was ready to go. It was one of the times I thought I was ready to go, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's go. I was so fucking ill, and then it just turned around, and I was back. I came back very quickly, but I was literally at death's door because that place was so fucking heavy. Silbury Hill, there are like millions and millions of fucking realms in that place. It's serious, and I bit off too much than what I could chew, and I was warned afterwards. I was told, you will not be able to do this. You don't have many of these left in you. I was warned about that.
Okay, so where
But
they came actually to Earth?
Yeah. So there are a lot of them are inner Earth type beings.
From inner Earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the gnomes and like these kind of beings.
Yeah.
We can say because they also.
The gnomes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just to I don't wanna. No comparing. That's not right thing. So we have a question here from Cecilia, like if they respect fairies, and not only fairies, but we can say if do they respect other beings? Fairies.
I think they hold a certain frequency. This is why I don't think they're elementals. You see, I don't classify them as elementals because I don't think their frequency, and I could be wrong in this, so take this with a pinch of salt. I don't think they mix very much with other species. They probably do mix with other species, but they're only probably their frequency range is only certain limited to a certain extent. So
Fairies. They are a little
yeah,
bit
fairies are much higher dimensional, I think.
higher. Yes.
So I don't think there is that much interaction. But here's another one. Actually, this was one of my almost second time I kind of encountered goblins. This might have been my second time, and it has nothing to do with me. It was a birthday place of power. Just remembered it. Funny enough, it was a birthday place of power of a friend, and it was her birthday, and I did a session with Sean with her, and we went to this stone circle. I won't say what stone circle it was. It was a lovely stone circle, and we gridded it, and opened it up. But we opened up a can of worms. It was a can of worms because this realm had been invaded. You had these jolly green giants that were part of this realm. Beautiful giant trees, the big giant trees in that realm. And you had these jolly green giants that were like guardians of that realm. Sounds absolutely beautiful, filled with magic, verdant green, such a fantastic, beautiful realm. But it was invaded by the rainbow serpent, if you will, the world serpent. It was broken into by that world serpent. He broke into that realm and devoured a lot of the trees and the jolly green giants. There were very little left when the serpent went in. And then on the wake of that destruction by the rainbow serpent, the goblins descended, and the goblins just took everything that was left. They stole the magic, they hoarded it, they took over the whole realm. This beautiful stone circle, it's a lovely stone circle, and it's got different standing stones nearby, close to it. It's got its own little false mythology, I would say, more medieval, but they named the stones but it's all from the medieval period. Silly superstitious bollocks. Anyway, excuse my language. But these goblins took everything. So our assignment was to go in there and grid it and deal with the goblins. And by that time, that was before I really dealt properly with the goblins. When I started, before I met the goblin mage. And that one was difficult. I'm not even sure that has been completely taken over, because about 50% of those goblins were not letting go of that magic that they stole. So you couldn't go into that realm and completely clear it up. I probably now, I could probably do it now. But back then, and this is going back about, I don't know how many years ago. So this is close to near to the beginning of 1 or 2 years of working with Sean. So I was still quite new to this stuff. But now I could probably, with the right support and the right setup, I could probably go in there now and clear that realm, with what's left, with what I know now. But back then I didn't know that much. and I probably didn't have the backup and the armies behind me to go in and do that. Which is why I've been accumulating so much of the armies, because now you can go into a realm that's been hijacked, and you can deal with it. You can clear it.
Absolutely.
You can collapse it. You can uncreate it. You can do so many different things into a hijacked realm now, because you've got, it's not you doing it, it's everyone else that's coming in to work with you to do it.
Yes, your
So,
allies,
you
your
understand
in
that?
spirit. Yeah.
I'm just a physical, a
Vessel.
small physical part of that whole job and assignment. I'm just
That's
the
what I
person.
say.
Yeah,
That the credit is for those in spirit are
absolutely. It's them that
yeah.
are doing it. You know, I might do a little bit of energy work or pouring what I'm doing and focusing what you're doing specifically to those things. Yes, but in the end, it's just you doing it, you setting it up, and it coming through you
It's
into what
happening
you're
through you. Yes.
into that realm. That's it.
Yeah. So then the question is if do some of them want to be released as we looked at those stones, goblin shaped stones.
No, I don't get that impression.
Or in general. I believe that
Because
it was related
they're
to
not in the
stones.
stones. They're not the stones are like a doorway, essentially.
Through the stones, like if they might be trapped in there,
No, I don't get that. I don't. I think that's already, the stones are already inhabited. For me, the stones are just the doorway, just
Mhm.
a doorway, and then when you open that doorway and go in, it's what that is connected to. Because it could be just like, you know, like I said about the windows, one window after another. Each window was like a doorway into a different realm. One doorway into that realm, next window is a doorway into another
Yeah,
realm, next window is a
doorways.
doorway into another realm. So it was like, remember I was saying, it was like I was scrolling up, 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 going through all the windows, and it was like, it felt like I was going through
Okay, I
hundreds.
get it.
I
I
just
get it.
kept on going, kept on going, kept on going, and I kept on going for like several minutes of just keep doing, and I kept asking, double checking, you know, is this real? Am I actually? And it's yes, keep going. It
Hmm.
is much bigger than what we can possibly imagine or conceptualize. It's beyond too much of what we can think. What's out there is infinitely much more than what our imagination has yet can even conceive.
No. There's many layers, many perspectives in everything, and I think it's beyond this, like human brain
Yeah,
comprehension.
exactly, exactly. It's beyond. The mind can't grasp the enormity. That's why I
The
love this.
complexity.
I love people who talk about flat Earth, because it's like such a small. It's like bringing the life universe into like a small little thing that they can hold in their mind, and they can believe it, and they can hold it, and you know, parcel it. And it's like, no, you got to let go of that completely. There might be a reality where the Earth is a flat plane, in some reality somewhere. That the Earth is on some level could be flat. I'm not a flat earther at all. I can be open to that. But really, essentially, with what we're dealing here, we ain't living on a flat plane. Do you know what I mean? It's just not. The whole science, forget NASA, the whole science is that we're living on a ball.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
any theory, if you say it's a sphere, it's a flat, there is a piece of truth in everything. So and
Yes,
nothing,
yes,
basically.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But physically, we are not on a flat plane. Let's just say
So
that.
let's get back to these crop circles. That is
Just
actually
finish
the
it.
last picture we have here. So
So,
these crop circles are being created by goblins
no,
or another beings. So can you tell
yes.
us about that?
Well, my theory, and somewhat, limited experience with crop circles, I'd say that they are, and this is my opinion, made by the Fae. I think I've said this to you before. That's Lapka. It's the Fae, the elves, that make crop circles. They are the ones who are technologically advanced, spiritually advanced, magically advanced.
So you want to
They
say
are
that goblins are not that advanced?
no, not even close. Not even close. Not even a thimbleful of what the elves can do. The elves are absolutely, the Fae are absolutely, and you can classify different types of beings, you might say, to the Fae. But for me, the Fae are the elves. And there are different species of elves as well in that, you know. There are different types of elves. But yeah, so it's the elves, the Fae that do this. They get, as you know, as anything, you do get sponsorships. You know, I think that's the right. Is that the right word? You know, like somebody has wants something done. They come to the elves and they say, "I want to do this. I want this to happen," and so the elves will create a crop circle that will contain what that being wants, that divinity wants. Like last year, you had the triple moon, the triple moon, the triple crescent, like the crescent moon. It was two crescent moons facing either end, like the triple moon, and the moon in the center, and then the crescent moons facing outwards. That was a witch symbol. It was a witch crop circle.
Yeah.
That was sponsored by a witch. That crop circle. So that was an example of somebody asking the elves to do this for, you know, to do this. So anyway, so this crop circle happened this year. What month was it? I think it might have been July that crop circle was made. I'm guessing. I think it was July. And that's right on the outside of Avebury, on the outskirts of the inner henge. So you've got where the trench is, where that little green bit is just the beginning of the bank that rises up and drops into the trench.
It's in Avebury area.
So it's right next to Avebury. These three crop circles are right by Avebury. And if you look on that photograph, you can see people have just walked right across the field like fucking brain dead fucking zombies to go into the crop circle. Some of those paths don't even go into the crop circles. There's like several paths that have gone out, you know, not even gone into the crop circles, they've gone outside. And you think, what the fuck have people done? And it was such a disheartening. Somebody like me who follows crop circles, I know the farmers don't want you to go into them for the most part, not all of them, some of them don't want you to go in. But because this is Avebury, that farmer's going to be getting, and because, you know, Avebury's such a heavily, you know, tourist area for people that go there. And especially there have been crop circles around Avebury, and for the most, and you've got different farmers who own certain parts of the land. Some of them are very amenable to them because it's money. They will get some money from whoever's, you know, organising this, you know, the council, whatever, you know, the municipality, perhaps they will get some money for allowing the crop circle to stay on their field. And they let people to go in. Some farmers will just like clear them away straight away because they don't want people to go into their fields because this is their livelihood. So it's understandable. So, you know, if you're going to go in, you're going to follow the tractor lines to go into those crop circles. There's an entrance way to go into a crop field. There's an entrance where the tractor has to come in, and then you have to walk onto the tractor lines and then find exactly where that crop circle is. There's a certain art to entering a crop field. I'm not even talking about asking permission from the crop spirit, because that's another aspect to it as well.
That's another thing, yeah.
Yeah, because the crop spirit will attack you. if you piss it off, it will attack you. And I've been attacked by crop spirit, so it's not a fun thing. So you have to be very respectful entering a crop field. Beside that, you have to respect the field, the farmer's field. I know you might say, well, I'm entering a farmer's field, walking into it, and so you're going against the farmer's wishes. But, you know, does the farmer really own the field? Well, no, of course it doesn't. It belongs to the earth. So you could say natural law, the farmer is just one person saying, don't do it. You know, okay, I'll make my livelihood, but I don't necessarily own the field. I don't own the land. I don't own
So
the
what
crop.
was your experience with these crop circles? What kind of
Anyway,
energy you
well,
felt? Any downloads, upgrades,
oh yeah,
activations?
yeah, yeah. Everything with crop circles, all of the above and more, and startles where you literally go in. Either the crop circle starts spinning and you fly off with it, or you go into a Stargate experience. That this year I had several Stargate experiences with these crop circles. Fascinating.
Yeah,
But
yes, you
that's not
told.
the point. That's not the point. That's not the reason for showing this crop circle. What I'm showing here is the paths of people walking into the crop field and that have not used the tractor lines. They've disrespected that completely. And as soon as I saw that, right, because that's not usual. Most human beings,
Okay, thanks for clarification.
when they enter into a crop field, they naturally, instinctively walk along the tractor lines. You just naturally do it. You don't just walk across the whole fucking thing and trample on all the crop field. You just don't do it. It is such a degenerate, low. What's that term used in
Well,
America?
disrespectful.
Low IQ human. You know, it's such a low IQ thing to do. It's such a destructive thing to just to walk across the crop field and not use the tractor lines. Anyway, this crop circle had so many human being lines walking across them, and I'm only sharing this because as soon as I saw that, I knew goblins. This was goblins that did that. This was goblins influencing human beings to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I knew it. So I just thought that that was an interesting
Well, now I
thing
understand better.
why I shared this picture. It wasn't about crop circles, it was about goblins.
Hmm. So you think that they were like those people were influenced, or
Yeah,
as you say, they took over those humans.
yeah, it
So
influenced them
with
in
the
in
aim
that way.
to actually lower the energy of
No,
it.
to enter into those crop circles, enter into the energy of the crop circle and what that crop circles or those crop circles are connected to. So they were going in there to hijack
Yeah.
what those crop circles were connected to. And they rode on the backs of human beings to do that.
Hmm.
They couldn't
Obviously.
with their own energy get in there. So they had to use human beings, which they could influence in order to get in there.
All right. So, and
Voilà.
we have another question. Yeah, hydration is important. Is there a connection to the dragons that were bound?
Which ones? Be specific. Which dragons? I don't know, honestly, to be honest. My lore and of goblins isn't that extensive at all, to be honest. I'm only talking about how I have experienced them. I ain't Sean Bond. I can't just, I'm not able to just tap in and just like, you know, read the information. I'm getting close to doing that now. I'm getting very close to reading off the page, off the screens of information. I do sometimes access it, but
She
you
says
know,
silver
huh?
dragons.
Silver dragons. I don't know anything about that. I won't talk about things I don't know, and I only talk about stuff that I do know, and I don't know anything about that. So I'm not saying that's not true. It's just I just don't know. I'm a little bit blinkered in the sense that I can only really deal with what rabbit hole I've gone down and experienced,
Well, is there
and that's why I
anything?
say you can take that with a pinch of salt. Really, you can take that with a pinch of salt because it is my experience and it's my opinion. I do try to, and I do all the time, double check, triple check, quadruple check everything that I've experienced and what's happened and what's been said. I do that with my higher self. So I go over this several times just to confirm that this actually has happened, and I make sure that the message is clear, because you know it's like one piece of information connects with another piece of information. If you gave me a link about what the silver dragons were, I could go into that, look at that, open that up, but I've got no reference point, so I would need some way to look at that and then able to then link it with whatever it is connected to. But if I don't have any reference point, I'm not. Sean is fantastic, and other people are very fantastic, where they can't even see the person. You just have not even hear the person's voice, but you get like a name, which is not their real name, but your higher self is able to connect with their higher self, talk to them, and then that makes the bridge, and the information now just flows, and then you're able to connect with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecilia, for asking.
I have done that a few times, but well, can we do that now? Can we ask? Who is the lady? Who's the person that asked this question?
Cecilia. It's for me to be me for, and her name is Cecilia.
Can we ask this? I wasn't expecting this, but can we do this? And you said silver dragons.
Yeah, you asked like to which dragons, because she says I've tried. You tried to connect, or can you specify, please, what you've tried?
What's she asking to do?
Mm-hmm.
So what's she actually asking? Because we need to know what she's asking. We don't know.
Is there a connection to the silver dragons that were bound? Is it connection with goblins?
Not so much with the goblins, no. But they were bound.
So, like, are you trying to tap into, or to have a session with Sean? I'm a silver dragon, so yeah. She says,
I'm not doing it that way. I'm doing this all through my higher self, asking my higher self to connect.
Okay, so she tried to have a session with Sean.
Yeah, but as I say, I don't do as I say, goblins are a certain frequency, and it's almost, you know, like that invasion of that stone circle I told you about, where the serpent, the rainbow serpent, went in and broke in and devoured a lot of what was in there. The goblins were only able to go in on the wake of that attack. They couldn't do it themselves. So it's like a scavenger type of energy. So very much a scavenger type of energy. They're not soldiers. They're not an army. They're not organized in that way. They're like scavengers, for want of a better word.
So they are following orders.
Yeah, some of the more powerful species were under the influence of the demonic, entities that were influencing them. So that was part of the assignment with the 7 species of goblins, that you had to help those ones that were being negatively influenced by demons to disconnect that, as it were, and to change that. So that was a very delicate one. I was a bit green when I started that one, but I wouldn't say I was fretting, but I was like, I need to approach this properly. I need to prep this before I even think about doing any of it. And I have that mentality of prepping whatever assignment I'm going to do. I have to prep it. You know, I have to prepare and go and do it. You know, I don't just turn up and do it. I have to prep it.
You get to protect yourself first.
Yeah. You've got to make sure that you're going in with everyone, or you're going with enough people to do what you need to do, and that you've got the backing to do it.
Yeah, so is there anything else that you would like to mention about goblins?
About the goblins?
That maybe that we haven't covered?
Well, you know, there are the rough kind, the violent kind, and there are the ones that will work with humans, that can work with humans, that are friendlier, that are more neutral, shall we say. So you do get your dark, but you do get your neutral goblins as well. So it's not all bad, but at the same time, I don't do anything without my consent or say so of my higher self. That's how I work. I don't work blind in that sense. I don't work just on my own. So that's my advice, is to first make your connection with your higher self strong and learn to do that. And then when you get approached, not just by goblins, but by any being, you're doing this with your higher self. Your higher self is you, but an expanded version of you, and will work and wants to work with you. But it is also under a heavy onslaught of things trying to suppress, control, dominate you, and the link between you and your higher self. So it isn't just the higher self's fault if you're not hearing, the link, if you're not hearing the message.
Okay,
you're not getting the answers. So there is a lot in the way. So, but with practice and with clearing this connection, once you've got it, then you can work with much more clearly. It just opens up your whole realm of being and what you can do, how you can access information, how you can link information, and bridge things, and keep bridging, and keep setting up menus of potentials of possible answers in order to make that link. And then once you've established a link of information, then you can move on to the next one. And so you can just expand that information of what you're accessing, initially with a simple yes or no answer, muscle testing. But after a while, you'll start hearing it, you'll start feeling it in your heart, because that's where the communication happens, in your heart. And setting up the alignment with that, and being like not distracted, being single focused enough to just be in that alignment, ask the question politely, and listen to the answer.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. It was really interesting topic today to talk about goblins, and especially with connection with Avebury. And in that area of it's in Wiltshire, UK.
Well, that's the thing. When I showed the Windmill Hill, I told you that, didn't I? That there's a goblin there, a very violent goblin. And Sean at the beginning said, "Don't go anywhere near them." And then after I did that assignment with the 7 species of goblins, I hadn't planned on doing it. I was in the vicinity. A crop circle turned up. I think it was my brother sent me a link. Oh, this crop circle's turned up. It's near you. And I went, oh, fuck. So I had to turn around and go past Windmill Hill, but I didn't go over it because I was warned not to, and I went round it. And then the goblin came through, and it was like, fucking, you're not coming through it, mate. You have to pay a toll. and then I got an assignment to go and grid this Windmill Hill. Went up there, and it was funny because as I was going up there, up the path, going up the hill, I got Mother Earth come through, and she said to me, something is about to happen that has not happened in a very long time. And I went up there, gridded it, and as I came down, she was ecstatic. She was so happy. She put her arm around me. I think by that time I'd started shaving my head, and I went, look, I've got no hair now. And she just kissed the top of my head, laughing. It was like I had that place there, Windmill Hill. I had such a massive kind of experience going to do that. And then since then, the goblin, I haven't gone round there much, but since going round there, afterwards, that one time to go see the crop circle, it was like the goblin had a more cheerful, even though he did ask for a toll. I just said, with my high self, I just went, hey, is there something we could offer to give him and, make him happy?
So we talk about this one.
Yeah, that's
Windmill Hill.
That was Windmill Hill.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah, we've done it.
So we can finish. So would you like to mention any contacts, how people can reach out to you?
Well, I generally, because I don't do classes, I don't do anything.
Hmm.
I don't, I'm not open to contact. I'm on Facebook as Madd Wizzard, MADD Z, Madd Wizzard. That's one way. I'm on Messenger as well, the Messenger app on Facebook. I'm also connected there. Emails are my emails there if anyone wants to ask a question or anything. Um, when it comes to, problems, if you've got something going on, I generally don't do people. Recently, I did have somebody who's connected with me and that started sending me stuff and then started sharing some of his problems. And then he was getting attacked. And it was like the first time I've actually gone and helped somebody out. He's over somewhere else in another country. But I did this with my higher self. And as soon as I did the link to connect with his higher self to do something, the whole attack came right at me. Everything that was attacking him started to come at me. And this is what happens when you talk to somebody like Sean. He's doing the same thing. He's like, what's that term? He's kind of like stepping in the way of what's coming at you. And now they come at him, and then he has to deal with it on that level. I know how to deal with that shit because Sean showed me how to do it. What to do when you get attacked. So it was easy, in that
Okay,
respect. But
so
initially, it was like I was getting attacked. I knew I was getting attacked, and I knew it was because of this young man. I thought, I trapped it all up, stuck it away, job done, and it was gone.
well,
And that was the first time I
how to
actually
deal
dealt
with
with
that.
somebody.
You learn eventually.
You
It's a
do, and
trial error, right?
it was.
Work in progress. So I'm sharing your Facebook and I'm sharing also your email. If
But
anyone would like to connect with you.
I am a novice. I am a novice. I am an apprentice. I'm still learning. I don't generally deal with people. I deal with, grid working. I'm a simple soul, right? I'm just a beginner, and I'm learning
Well,
how to do that.
thank you. Thank you for being of service and thank you for being you, for being here. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the invite. Last minute, she didn't
Yeah,
have
it
anyone.
was.
She didn't have anyone to interview, and she went, "Are you
Don't,
are you
don't
free
say
tonight?"
everything.
I was going to
Don't
go
say
for a walk,
everything.
but I'll do it. If you think I'm interesting enough for you, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, sometimes I do that. Last minute requests. Why
Yeah.
not? I
I
mean,
think I said,
anyone, if he's interested to come to my channel, I can do last minute as well. Sometimes it's really like for me convenient. So
it was
okay.
a bit last minute, but it was, and you only wanted to really talk about goblins, so we were going to talk
Well,
about a lot more other things, weren't we?
we talk also about the other beings as well, which I asked you before. You remember, like general question, the entities that you
Oh right,
encountered,
yeah.
or dealt with. It was not only about goblins, but we really covered a lot about goblins. So I'm actually grateful that you found time for it. Because I don't hear often about them.
Yeah.
I'm open, like, to hear your story and other stories if you like to share. If you have experiences with entities, ETs, UFOs, spirits, uh, and other beings. Why not? Feel free to share. Reach out. So yeah, muchas gracias.
Then
So yeah, thank you, and hope to see you soon because I'd like to talk more, do the follow up with you. It's really interesting,
yeah.
especially about your trips at night that you go out and you to the places and you stay there overnight. So yes, you're a real warrior dealing with a lot of shadow aspects of self, and these shadows. Let's put it that way. So
Underworld.
yeah, well, that's also part of us.
Yeah.
So thank you very much and have a good
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Likewise. Not everyone.
yeah. See you.
Night, Oh,